give you a little context first. We're going back to 1975. We're east of Kalispell, Montana, in the Purcell Mountains. I bought 5 acres of land there in 1975. It was at 4,200 feet. Kalispell is at 2,800 feet above sea level. So up at 4,200 feet, you're at a different climate altogether than what it's like down in town. A little cooler up there, a little moister. So my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, we bought 5 acres for $5,000, no money down, $65 a month. And it was at a high percentage rate, but we didn't care. We wanted to get onto some piece of property. Now, it was up into the county roads, which are not paved, graveled, and then there was a small 1-lane dirt road that went up to where the 5 acres was. The 5 acres was a rectangular shape, and there was a dirt road that covered each end of it. So you could approach it from 2 different lanes of travel. And it was okay, 5 acres. It wasn't anything you were gonna be farming or something, but it was a good home site because you had a road to each end of it, and it had a creek that ran through about 1/3 of the land. And that was a spring-fed creek, so the water was just perfect. And so we got on the place, and there was nothing there but the creek and the roads, and everything else was trees and bushes and all that. So we had to start clearing a spot for the homestead. We did have a neighbor named Bill, and he was a retired Air Force colonel. He had a Vietnamese wife who didn't speak English, and this was common in the 70s after the Vietnam War was getting over. A lot of guys had married Vietnamese women and brought them to the United States. They were welcome, and he was a good neighbor, and the first spot that I picked out to build the cabin, he suggested I move it because he'd seen that part of the creek flood before. So I did move it far enough away and up a little elevation so that it wouldn't matter. And it was lucky I did that because we did find remnants of flooding a little further in time. So we had ourselves 5 acres, and I was 22, and I think Valerie was 20. Pretty sure that's how old we were. And everybody wanted to do this. After the Vietnam War, everyone wanted to just get away, live in the mountains, have their own little place, and that's what everybody was doing. So we felt we were in the right track. So we had to start clearing a spot, and we wanted to live up there for the summer, so we got a 10 by 10 tent, we got a bureau, we got a box spring and mattress, we put all that in. The same year we found a wood cook stove, and we brought that up there, and I built a 3-sided shack out of just random planks and some pallets, so we had a place to cook. And I draped a lot of plastic over the camp area, and so we had a camp on our 5 acres with a wood cook stove to cook with. That was pretty elegant camping in those days. So we got that done. Then we hired a friend with a small cat/bulldozer, and he started leveling out and clearing some places for us to build a house. And so that summer got done. And by the end of summer, there had been so much early AM rain between 3 and 4 and 5 AM, you'll get maybe a little shower up in the hills when you're at that elevation. We didn't know that. So we ended up with a moldy tent, a moldy box spring. It just wasn't a fun campsite and it seemed to rain every day for the month of June. So we got out of there and we rented a place for the winter, and we got through that winter and got up there the next summer, and we got the cat up there to clear out some more stumps and to dig us a root cellar, and also to excavate a hole big enough to make a wet well, which we would be able to get water from. And that's just a big giant hole with some concrete pipe in it and a whole bunch of gravel, and then you have to dig a ditch and run a line up to your house. So that was down the road. But the second summer, we started on the foundation. I was working in a concrete yard, building septic tanks and cement pipe. And so we started building the forms. The cement company gave me a whole bunch of steel to make reinforcement with, so we were getting that done. And then our friend with the cat, he was clearing around and pushing dirt around, and he cut into this one natural mound that had developed in the hills from the glaciers, and it was pure, clean gravel. It was pretty amazing. There was a little bit of forest debris in it, but it was about a pickup truckload of gravel. And that was like finding money. Because it was right next to where we were going to build. I didn't have to buy any gravel for the cement mix. I only had to bring home cement and sand. So now we're living in a camp still. I'm working 10 hours a day in a concrete factory. Valerie was working for a newsstand in town. We had an old 1953 Chevy truck. And we made another go of it that summer, and we got, that would have been in '76. And so we got the foundation done. And again, we had another wet summer. So part of this was developing a way to have refrigeration. There was no electricity up there at this time. And so I brought home some concrete tubes with cement bottoms, and we put them in the creek with a concrete top, and it was like a refrigerator. And you could put all your butter and your eggs and milk in there, and it would stay as cool as the creek was. Another thing we discovered was an old water wheel that was next to the creek that had fallen over. And we discovered that somewhere in the past, they had pushed two boulders together so that the whole creek came through about a 10-inch slot. And so all that water pressure was what pushed the water wheel. Now, we couldn't use the water wheel. It was old and dilapidated. So we just had a nice little pool that we could take cold water baths in right at the creek next to that, and you could dunk your head under that like a shower. So that was pretty cool. Then in that same pool, they had moved the rocks around so that you had a natural wet refrigerator, and it would hold. Literally, we dumped 2 cases of beer in there at one point, and none of it would float away. It would just stay in that one spot and be as cool as the creek. So another interesting thing is, even in the wintertime, if you have something below the water, like a can of beer or a thing of milk or something, it won't freeze if it's below the water surface, because the water won't freeze. Well, nothing else will either. So that was kind of a nice discovery. We found parts of an old Model A under there that had been swept down in one of the floods. Now, I never saw any flooding when I was there. The creek would get pretty high, but not too bad. So that was our second summer, and we were getting pretty used to living in the mountains. We'd, go to town and take a shower at a friend's